A lot of people here think of, making coffee. You pour hot water over a brown powder. How hard can that be? What I'd like to convey is it's actually more difficult to make a good cup of coffee than it is to make a good bottle of wine. And when I say that to my wine colleagues, they get all riled up because they know how difficult it is to make wine. It turns out coffee is even more complicated.
That's a chemical engineering professor at the University of California, Davis, who spoke to the Associated Press. And if it sounds like he takes his coffee seriously with a splash of cream, you're right, because he's also the founding director of this place on campus.
The Coffee Center at UC Davis is the nation's first academic facility dedicated to the science and art of coffee.
Yeah. Coffee College. More specifically, it's a 7,000 square foot, multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art facility that opened back in May and is intended to offer up research and education on one of the world's most popular beverages. And this isn't some fever dream of a grad student who desperately needs a fix while finishing up their thesis. For nearly a decade, UC Davis has been teaching the science of coffee, like in its College of Engineering's ECM 1 course, The Design of Coffee, which according to this 2016 syllabus, is a non-mathematical introduction to how engineers approach and solve problems, as elucidated by the process of roasting and brewing coffee, that uses engineering principles and experiments with the goal of making the best tasting coffee with the least amount of energy. Okay. And this isn't the only beverage available on the UC Davis academic menu. They've got a Global Tea Institute, a whole department on wine studies, and even a graduate and undergraduate brewing program, which can help you upend the expectations of people who hear that you're studying beer in college.
I think most people tend to think that I'm kind of like a barista-ish. I know how to make a cup of coffee, but they don't really understand how much science and engineering and how much innovation is needed in the coffee industry. So much. It's a new industry with research and stuff. That's something that people don't know, and I hope people learn more about it with the Coffee Center opening, and hopefully coffee research becomes bigger.
That's a UC Davis student inside the school's coffee facilities, where they provide pre- and post-harvest coffee science research, rooms for coffee bean roasting and espresso brewing, and even a blind tasting room where researchers can study how consumers respond to various varieties of coffee, a concept that gives off real spittoon vibes. The school says last year more than 2,000 students took a UC Davis coffee course. And as for the classes themselves, coffee studies are integrated into all sorts of academic programs, like this Gen Ed course called Just Coffee, and another one that looks at history through a coffee production lens. Here's a grad student in biological systems engineering.
I want to use science or chemistry or engineering to be able to control how your roasted beans are going to come out of the roaster. So we could control things like its acidity level. By doing research and looking at how these parameters change as you roast, we'll be able to predict what's going to happen if you roast a certain way using a certain type of green bean.
In the future, the Coffee Center hopes to add a greenhouse so they can grow their own coffee beans on site. And one day, they even hope to offer up a standalone degree in coffee science. That's quite the diploma, but not much of a surprise, given this coffee center is funded by donations from several giant coffee companies, like Folgers and Peet's. And for the founding director of this place, this coffee center offers up an opportunity to truly take the study of coffee from tall to venti.
Here's the size of the wine economy. Here's the size of the coffee economy in the United States. But then when you look at the academic investment, there's a lot for wine. There's a whole department here of wine. Historically, nothing for coffee. And so that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to elevate coffee and make it a topic of academic research and an academic talent pipeline to help support the industry and help support what's arguably the world's most important beverage.
For more of the world's most important stories, like how archaeologists just found the world's oldest liquid wine, and how a Motel 6 once sold a room for ground beef, subscribe to At The News Refresh to get stuff like this in your feed each and every day. Bottoms up.